if the federal government wants him to cooperate and they're gonna cut his time.
Gene Deal warned the world years ago, and now everything he said about Diddy has come true. Almost 2 years after federal agents raided Diddy's mansion, the music mogul has finally been sentenced. And Gene's reaction says it all. He's not surprised. He's not sympathetic. He's furious. Because according to Gene, this isn't justice, it's protection. He says the same system that once let Diddy run wild is now letting him walk free after barely getting a slap on the wrist. I said he'd do 2 years, Gene told viewers. And look, that's exactly what's happening. Despite the judge giving him a 50-month sentence, Diddy's expected to serve less than 30 months thanks to time served, federal credit, and early release programs. That means he could be out before most people even realize he was gone. Gene didn't hold back. He got off like a fat rat in a cheese factory, he said. After everything he did, all that pain, all that abuse, this man gets 2 years. That's a joke, and he's not the only one saying it. Prosecutors originally pushed for 11 years, but somehow Diddy dodged the worst of it. No drug charges, no gun charges, and no assault charges, even though, as Gene points out, the evidence was right there in court. So how did Diddy get such a light sentence? Gene believes the answer is simple. He's protected by power, by money, and maybe even by the feds themselves. And that's why Gene's breaking his silence now to explain why Diddy's sentence isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of something much darker. Because in Gene's words, he thought he was untouchable. But God don't miss. When Gene Deal first warned that Diddy would one day pay for what he did, people thought he was just bitter. Another ex-bad boy insider with a grudge. But now, after Diddy's 4-year sentence, Gene's words sound less like hate and more like prophecy. Gene said this would happen years ago. Not a dramatic downfall, not a decades-long prison term, but a short, humiliating sentence that exposed just how protected Diddy really is. And now, he's saying exactly what he predicted has come true, almost down to the month. I said it on my show, Gene reminded fans. Diddy's gonna end up doing 24 months. The judge gave him 50, but once you do the math, time served, credits, programs, he'll be home in 2. He broke it down like only someone who's been there can. Diddy already had 14 months served before sentencing. He'll get credit for 2 more, and under federal guidelines, inmates only serve about 85% of their total sentence. By Gene's calculation, that means Diddy will do around 30 months, barely 2.5 years. And if Diddy's accepted into a halfway house or camp program, he could be back on the streets even sooner. Gene laughed bitterly about it on his live stream, saying, he got off like a fat rat in a cheese factory. To Gene, this isn't justice. It's an example of how power shields the guilty. Because for everything Diddy's accused of, violence, manipulation, and decades of exploitation, 2 years isn't a punishment, it's a vacation. Gene said, a dude like that don't belong in no camp. He should have been in real prison, not some dorm where he can charm guards and buy commissary friends. He compared it to other celebrities who served federal time, Lil' Kim, Kirk Burrows, saying they all went through the same easy setups. In Gene's words, when you got money and connections, they don't send you to prison, they send you to summer camp. But Gene's not just angry at the system, he's angry because he's seen it all before. Diddy hurting people, dodging accountability, and walking away untouched. I've been saying for years, Gene said, you can only run from God for so long. So, yeah, he got time. But this ain't the real punishment. That's still coming. For Gene, this sentence isn't closure. It's confirmation that everything he's been saying, every warning, every story, every accusation was true. And what makes it even worse, according to him, Diddy didn't just get lucky, he got help. When the judge announced Diddy's 50-month sentence, it sounded serious, until you looked closer. Prosecutors had pushed for 11 years, arguing that Diddy's crimes showed a pattern of abuse, coercion, and corruption spanning decades. But somehow he walked away with less than half of that. Gene Deal couldn't believe it. He said on his live stream, 50 months? For everything this man did? Nah, that don't add up. And when you break down the case, Gene's right. Diddy was caught with guns, he was caught with drugs, he was even caught on video assaulting women, yet none of those things showed up in his official charges. The judge called them relevant conduct, a legal term meaning the court acknowledges those crimes happened but won't formally punish him for them. Gene explained it in plain English. He got caught with drugs, never charged. He got caught with guns, never charged. The judge knew all of it. That's why she said relevant conduct. It means, yeah, we know he did it, but we're gonna ignore it. Even worse, Gene reminded fans about Diddy's alleged $100,000 bribe, money he supposedly paid to keep one of Cassie's tapes from being released. That came up in court too, but again, no added charges, no extended sentence, just more relevant conduct. Gene said that phrase became the judge's favorite excuse. Every time something came up, the drugs, the guns, the violence, it was relevant conduct. You know what that really means? Privilege, and he's not the only one calling it out. Legal experts have questioned how Diddy's sentence fell below the federal guidelines, especially with so many aggravating factors. Typically, the judge is expected to go above the guideline range in cases involving multiple victims or abuse. Instead, she went under it. To Gene, that's proof. Diddy's not just powerful, he's protected. He said, "You can't tell me a regular dude caught with that much evidence walks away with 2 years. You can't. They protecting him." Always have Gene pointed out that the government publicly downplayed everything. No mention of the seized weapons, no follow-up on the narcotics, no conspiracy charges. It's almost as if the system wanted to punish Diddy just enough to calm the public, but not enough to expose whoever was protecting him behind the scenes. This wasn't justice, Gene said. It was cleanup. They gave him time to make it look real, but the deal was done long before the sentence. To Gene, this wasn't just a light punishment, it was a message. Money and power still decide who pays and who walks. And Diddy once again found a way to walk. For years, people wondered how Gene Deal could speak so openly about Diddy, even when others stayed silent. The answer came the moment he spoke about the sentencing. His voice didn't sound sad or vindictive. It sounded finished. Because to Gene, Diddy isn't just another celebrity who fell from grace, he's an enemy. "How can I have sympathy for a man who tried to kill me?" Gene said. He made it clear, I was his enemy and he was mine. He reminded fans that during the height of Diddy's paranoia and power, he had allegedly ordered people to get at Gene, the same man who once protected him, who took bullets for him, and who tried to steer him toward doing right by people. "I fought to keep guys out of jail for 27 years, Gene said. "But do I care about him going to jail? I don't. God's gonna have to take that off my heart. But I don't feel bad." He listed the betrayals. Diddy disrespecting Wolf's mother, setting up former allies, using people to fight his wars and then turning his back on them. To Gene, it wasn't just business. It was personal destruction masked as power. He cursed out Wolf's mom. He set Wolf up to go at BMF. That's when I knew that man got no soul. He became my enemy that day, so when Gene saw Diddy crying in court, he didn't see remorse. He saw karma. He ain't crying for no victims. He crying because he got caught, Gene said. That's not guilt, that's fear. Gene's tone isn't bitter. It's almost spiritual. He doesn't want revenge. He wants balance. In his eyes, this isn't punishment from a judge, it's a lesson from God. "I know there's a God," Gene said, and he showed Diddy exactly what happens when you think you're bigger than him. You can build an empire, but if it's built on lies and pain, God'll tear it down himself. And when asked if he'd ever forgive Diddy, Gene didn't hesitate. Forgive him? Nah. I leave that to God, but I ain't never gonna feel sorry for him. To Gene, Diddy's tears, letters, and apologies mean nothing. The damage is already done. To him, to Cassie, and to every person Diddy used to keep his image alive. "This man hurt too many people," Gene said. "Now he's sitting in a cage pretending he found peace. He ain't found peace, he found judgment." And for the first time in decades, Gene says he can finally breathe. Because the man who thought he was unstoppable finally hit a wall he couldn't buy his way around. Every time someone questions how Diddy got such a short sentence, Gene Deal gives the same answer. He made a deal. Gene and Suge Knight have been saying it for months. Diddy's light punishment isn't luck, it's leverage. Both men believe Diddy has been quietly working with the feds for years, trading information to protect himself while everyone around him burns. Suge warned the world about it first. From prison, he said, Puffy's had strong ties with the government forever. Anybody else would have been cooked. Now Gene's echoing those words, saying that's the only explanation for how Diddy walked away from decades of criminal behavior with less than 4 years. You can't tell me the feds raided his homes, found guns, drugs, tapes, and he gets a camp sentence, Gene said. That don't happen unless you're feeding them something. According to Gene, this didn't start with Diddy's trial. It started years ago when he began collecting evidence and keeping secrets on powerful people in entertainment, politics, and law enforcement. When his world started to fall apart, Gene believes Diddy used those secrets as bargaining chips. That man been recording everybody for years, Gene said. So when they came for him, he said, "Cool, I'll give y'all names, I'll give y'all stories, just keep me safe." And somehow, that's exactly what happened. Despite the FBI reportedly finding drugs, illegal weapons, and evidence tied to multiple victims, Diddy wasn't charged for any of it. Prosecutors dropped several potential counts without explanation, and even the judge admitted there were mitigating factors behind the leniency. To Gene, that phrase, mitigating factors, and is just code for deals made behind closed doors. He gave them something, Gene said. Information, money, maybe both. But make no mistake, he didn't walk out of that courtroom clean by accident. Even Diddy's pre-sentencing behavior raised eyebrows. While most defendants stay quiet, Diddy was all over social media, posting slick videos, smiling in photos, and acting untouchable. Soog mocked that, saying, "It looked like he was running for president. You don't act that confident unless you already know the outcome." Gene agrees, calling Diddy's performance a distraction while the real moves were happening in the background. He was already talking to people, Gene said. His lawyers, the feds, even politicians. He wasn't worried about no trial. He was negotiating. And he's not wrong. Because shortly after the sentencing, something strange happened. Donald Trump confirmed that Diddy had reached out personally asking for a presidential pardon. Trump said in a press interview, "Puff Daddy has asked me for a pardon." That statement alone sent shockwaves across the internet, proving Diddy was already trying to escape prison before the verdict was even final. To Gene, it's just more proof that Diddy never faced justice. He just managed it. "He got connections in every room," Gene said. "He ain't fighting the system. He's part of it." When Diddy stood before the judge, his team painted him as a changed man, humble, broken, and full of remorse. He read a 4-page apology letter, his voice shaking as he said he took full responsibility for his past. But to Gene Deal, it was all an act. "He ain't sorry for what he did," Gene said flatly. "He's sorry he got caught." In the letter, Diddy begged for mercy and claimed his year in jail had changed him forever. He told the court, "I lost my way. I got lost in the drugs and the excess. I was dead wrong for putting my hands on the woman I loved." He apologized directly to Cassie Ventura and to another victim, known in court as Jane, saying he regretted hurting them and would carry that guilt forever. But Gene wasn't buying it, and neither were Cassie's lawyers. They released a statement calling Diddy's so-called apology a disgrace and an insult to survivors of abuse. Cassie herself told the judge that Diddy's abuse had destroyed her physically and mentally for more than a decade, describing in painful detail how he controlled her through violence, drugs, and fear. "He made me perform things no woman should ever have to," Cassie wrote. "It wasn't love. It was control." Hearing that, Gene said, "That's the real Diddy, not the one crying in court." He pointed out how Diddy's apology only came after everything else failed, after the raids, the lawsuits, and the videos leaked. "He didn't apologize when Cassie first sued him," Gene said. "He didn't apologize when people were getting hurt. He only said sorry when the judge was staring him down." To Gene, the letter was a carefully scripted performance, a legal tactic meant to soften the court and shape the headlines. Even Diddy's lawyers leaned on it heavily, calling him a man who's learned his lesson and a loving father. But Gene reminded viewers of the truth. Ain't no man learned his lesson when he's still threatening people behind closed doors. Because even during trial, multiple witnesses said they'd been threatened or intimidated by Diddy's camp to stay quiet. Several reported receiving warning messages and calls, all while Diddy's lawyers publicly pushed the image of a repentant family man. To Gene, the hypocrisy couldn't be clearer. "You can't cry in court and keep bullying people at the same time," he said. "You either changed or you didn't," and he didn't. In Gene's eyes, Diddy's apology wasn't an admission, it was a strategy. A calculated move to look remorseful, cut his sentence, and save what's left of his empire. If that judge had seen the real Diddy, the one I know, he'd be doing life, Gene said. Because for Gene, no amount of tears, letters, or courtroom performances can undo what Diddy did to people like Cassie, or to everyone else who trusted him and got destroyed in the process. As shocking as Diddy's light sentence already was, what came next made it even harder to believe. Because according to both Gene Deal and multiple reports, Diddy is still trying to get out. And this time, he's aiming straight for the top. Shortly after his sentencing, Donald Trump confirmed that Diddy personally asked him for a presidential pardon. "I have a lot of people asking me for pardons," Trump told reporters. "Puff Daddy has asked me for a pardon." That single line sent social media into chaos because it proved Diddy wasn't humbled by prison. He was plotting his next move before he even got to his cell. Gene Deal wasn't surprised. He said, "That's Diddy. He don't do time. He negotiates his way out. He's been making deals his whole life." According to insiders, Diddy's legal team, led by attorney Mark Agnifilo, started preparing the pardon request months in advance. Diddy allegedly told his lawyers, "Go tell Trump I deserve a pardon." When pressed by reporters, Agnifilo didn't deny it. He just said, any decision on pardons would have to come from the president. That no comment said everything. Gene laughed when he heard about it. Man's crying in court but begging Trump for mercy behind closed doors? That's not remorse, that's arrogance. He reminded viewers that Diddy's been here before. Every time the walls close in, he leans on money and connections. From shady business ties to rumored political favors, Diddy's always had powerful friends. And now, even with a conviction, he's still using those same connections to try and cheat the system. Former mobster Michael Franzese said the move reminded him of classic protection politics. When a guy's got that much pull, he don't fear time, he just starts calling in favors, Franzese said. It's not justice, it's privilege. What's worse, Diddy reportedly expected a deal from the start. Court insiders say he was already telling his team he'd be out in a year, maybe less. One prosecutor even revealed in court that Diddy had speaking engagements booked for the following week, as if he was certain he'd walk free. That arrogance didn't go unnoticed. The judge reportedly scolded his legal team, saying it showed a shocking lack of humility. But Gene Deal wasn't shocked at all. He really thought he could walk out that courtroom and hop on stage, Gene said. That's how untouchable he thinks he is. Even after the sentencing, Diddy's lawyers doubled down, calling him a changed man and announcing plans to appeal the verdict. But with Trump's confirmation and multiple insiders admitting the pardon talks are real, it's clear Diddy isn't trying to serve his time. He's trying to erase it. "This ain't about redemption," Gene said. "It's about control. He's using the same power that protected him for years, and he still thinks it'll save him now." But this time, even with all his money and influence, Gene believes Diddy's running out of lifelines. Because the world isn't buying the act anymore, and not even a president can pardon karma. While Diddy's lawyers fight to shave off more time or secure a pardon, Gene Deal says the reality is simple. He's not built for prison life. "He ain't never been around real killers, real convicts," Gene said. "He's been around celebrities. There's a difference." Gene, who's seen the inside of both street life and federal facilities, believes Diddy's arrogance and reputation will make him a target behind bars. His money might buy him temporary peace, but it won't buy him respect. And that's what matters most inside. "He can pay for protection, but money don't last forever," Gene said. "And when it runs out, he's just another man with enemies." According to court records, Diddy's lawyers admitted he was attacked once while being held at the Metropolitan Detention Center. An inmate allegedly tried to shank him, but a guard intervened before it turned deadly. The story barely made the news, and Gene found that suspicious. "Everything leaks from prison," Gene said, "but that didn't. Nobody wrote home, nobody said a word. That sounds like PR to me." Gene suspects Diddy's team used the incident as leverage to push for a transfer to a lower security facility, claiming he wasn't safe. It's a classic tactic, paint him as a target so he can serve his sentence somewhere easier. Still, Gene says even a camp won't save him from the mental toll. "He's been living like a king for 30 years, Gene said. Now he's in a room with 25 men, one toilet, no privacy. You think that man gonna make it? He might pull an Epstein. The depression, the isolation, the loss of control, it's already eating at him." Insiders say Diddy barely sleeps, keeps to himself, and avoids contact with other inmates. The same man who built an empire on being loud and untouchable is now quiet and paranoid. Gene predicted it long ago. If Diddy ever had to do real time, he wouldn't survive it. Not mentally, not spiritually, and it's not just fear of the environment, it's fear of revenge. There are still people inside and outside those walls who haven't forgotten what Diddy's done. From Cassie's allegations to street beefs dating back decades, Diddy has a list of enemies, some who might see his imprisonment as an opportunity. Even Diddy's lawyers know it. In court, they admitted multiple discussions about his safety, saying there's concern that certain inmates view Diddy as a trophy, a high-profile target. But Gene believes the real danger comes from Diddy himself. He's the type that'll break before he bends, Gene said. When the spotlight's gone, when the fake love disappears, all that ego collapses. That's when men like him start thinking dark thoughts. He's not saying it to mock him. He's saying it because he's seen it before. The loudest men, the ones who seem invincible, are often the ones who can't handle silence. And that's why Gene's final warning hits hard. The feds can protect his body, but they can't protect his mind. Even as the courtroom closed and the sentence was read, Diddy still acted like the rules didn't apply to him. The arrogance that defined his entire career followed him right into prison, and Gene Deal says that attitude is exactly why he's still in denial. Incredibly, prosecutors revealed during sentencing that Diddy had already booked speaking engagements in Miami for the following week, as if he truly believed he'd walk free that same day. When the judge heard it, she called it the ultimate display of arrogance. He was setting up events like he was going on tour, Gene said. That man really thought he was going to leave court, hop on a plane, and talk about redemption. He ain't even packed for prison. It wasn't just arrogance, it was delusion. Prosecutors told the court that Diddy's team had been lining up healing sessions and media appearances while quietly preparing his pardon request in the background. They were already trying to rebrand him as a civil rights activist and a man who had lost his way. Gene couldn't help but laugh. They really stood up there in court and called him a civil rights activist, he said. Man, he's been violating rights his whole career. The only movement he's leading is from the cell to the cafeteria. Even the judge couldn't ignore the hypocrisy. She pointed out how Diddy's letters of apology and emotional statements were constantly undercut by his behavior, threatening witnesses, booking events, and pretending to be untouchable until the last minute. The arrogance is unbelievable, Gene said. He thought his name would save him. He thought that letter was going to melt the judge's heart. But God don't care about status. He cares about truth. And while Diddy's lawyers pushed the narrative that he changed, the courtroom told a different story. One of his female attorneys broke down crying during sentencing, begging the judge for leniency, not because she believed he was innocent, but because she knew what was coming. Meanwhile, Diddy's other attorneys announced plans to appeal immediately after the verdict. They claimed the judge was biased and had ignored the jury's decision, calling it unconstitutional. But even that, Gene says, was just another distraction. Appeal or not, he's guilty, Gene said. They just playing with time. They know it. The world knows it. He believes Diddy's appeal isn't about freedom. It's about saving face. By fighting publicly, Diddy keeps his name in the headlines and fuels the illusion that he's still powerful. It's the same strategy that's protected him for decades: deny, distract, and dominate the narrative. But Gene says that tactic won't work anymore. This time, the cameras ain't helping him, Gene said. He can't spin his way out of this. He's not Puff Daddy in here. He's inmate number 45,007. And for the first time in his life, Diddy's not the one giving orders. He's the one being told what to do. Diddy might be behind bars, but his story is far from over. The sentence may have been short, but the damage is long-lasting. To his empire, his reputation, and everyone who once stood beside him. Gene Deal says what's happening now is exactly what Diddy spent years trying to avoid: the unraveling. All them people he used, all them lies he told, it's all coming back around, Gene said. The man who thought he could buy silence is finally surrounded by it. In the weeks since sentencing, the fallout has been brutal. Business partners are cutting ties, artists are scrubbing old photos, and sponsors who once bragged about working with Diddy are suddenly pretending they never knew him. Even his closest allies, from executives to family, are staying quiet. Gene noticed that silence too. Not one baby mama showed up for him, Gene said. That tells you everything about his character. When you lose your own family's respect, it's over. Meanwhile, Cassie Ventura, the woman at the center of his trial, has finally spoken through her attorneys. Her statement called the sentence a recognition of the pain he caused and promised that her healing journey would continue. She even moved her family out of New York in fear of Diddy's possible release, saying just knowing he's behind bars lets her sleep at night for the first time in years. Gene says he respects her strength, but he also warns this isn't the end. Diddy's legal team has already announced an appeal, while also pushing for entry into a federal drug treatment program, RDAP, that could take a year off his sentence. He's still trying to hustle the system, Gene said. They trying to make him sound like a rehab case so he can get home early. But even if the Bureau of Prisons approves that move, there's one big problem: Diddy's violent history. The RDAP program rejects inmates with violent or coercive backgrounds, which technically disqualifies him. Gene believes that if Diddy somehow gets approved anyway, it'll only confirm what he's been saying all along. If they let him slide into that program, you'll know for sure he got protection at the top. Still, no amount of manipulation can change the reality Diddy's facing. The empire is crumbling, lawsuits are piling up, and more sealed investigations are rumored to be waiting for their turn in court. This ain't over, Gene said. This is just the first chapter. More names, more dirt, more truth. It's all gonna come out. He says what's happening now is a warning to the entire entertainment industry. The days of power without consequence are ending. For 30 years, he lived like a king, Gene said. Now, he's living like the people he hurt. That's what justice really looks like. Gene believes Diddy's story is proof that no one, no matter how rich or connected, can outrun karma forever. He thought he was untouchable, Gene said. Now the world can see he's just another man learning the hard way. And if Gene's predictions keep coming true, this might not just be Diddy's fall. It might be the start of a much bigger reckoning. Gene Deal said it years ago. God don't miss. And now, watching Diddy's empire collapse piece by piece, those words feel prophetic. From the mansion raids to the courtroom tears, from the fake apologies to the secret pardon attempts, everything about Diddy's downfall screams power finally catching up to corruption. Yet somehow, even after decades of alleged abuse, manipulation, and control, he still managed to land softly. Guy's got life for less than what he did, Gene said. And this man, walking out in 2 years, that ain't justice. That's privilege. He's right. Prosecutors asked for over a decade, and Diddy got less than 4 years. But according to Gene, that light sentence wasn't mercy. It was a deal. A deal to protect the names, the secrets, and the power behind him. And while Diddy sits in a low-security facility counting down months instead of decades, the people he hurt are still trying to rebuild their lives. Cassie, the victims, even those like Gene who once believed in him. Gene doesn't feel sorry for him. He doesn't believe in redemption tours or staged letters. To him, this is the natural order catching up. He thought he could play God, Gene said. Now he's facing him. And maybe that's why this story isn't over. Because when Diddy finally walks free, he'll be stepping into a world that doesn't fear him anymore. The system may have protected him, but karma never will. As Gene put it best, you can hide from the feds. You can even buy the judge, but you can't run from God. Do you think Diddy's sentence was justice or another example of power protecting power? Let me know your thoughts below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next.